Good morning, and welcome to the 20th anniversary of TCI's Top 100 Women-Led Businesses in Massachusetts Awards. This is the 8th year we are partnering with the Boston Globe magazine, so a thank you to the Boston Globe staff. While we are all experiencing uncertainty right now, at TCI, we remain certain of one thing, and that is the business imperative of women's leadership. So this is the first time doing this event virtually, and I, along with Pam Reeve, TCI's board chair, are here in the studio together as your hosts for today's program. Some of the winners made plans for socially distanced celebrations at their offices, and others are celebrating from their socially distanced office at home. So regardless of where you are, nearly 1,000 of you are registered for today, so a welcome to all of you. Today's pre-recorded hour program is first and foremost to celebrate the top 100 winners. We will also be featuring a variety of local and national leaders to share their thoughts on the state of women's leadership. So don't forget to engage with the other attendees during this hour in the chat function. And again, congratulations to the top 100 winners. Enjoy the program.
As we prepared for the 20th anniversary of the Top 100 Women-Led Businesses, it seemed right to take a look at where we were in the year 2000 when we first started and we had our first Top 100 with our partner Babson University at the time. The Top 100 Women-Led Businesses represented under $5 billion of revenue in Massachusetts, and the average size in terms of employees was about 319. So fast forward to 2020. And the top 100 represents $70 billion of revenue. That's about 16% of the GDP in Massachusetts, Elizabeth, and about 1,600 employees per company.
What a difference 20 years makes. Can you believe that?
Amazing.
20 years ago, customer satisfaction and customer needs, that was the number one business priority.
And those things today are kind of table stakes. The issues that are top of mind for the top 100 now are innovation, community issues, and societal issues like gender and racial equity.
Absolutely. It's incredible the amount of focus on people and culture that we really weren't talking about very much back in 2000.
Right.
Crazy. And there are 4 companies this year that we want to make a special shout out to. These 4 companies have been on the top 100 winners list for the last 20 years. And those companies are Atlas Travel, Candlewick Press, ET&L Corp, and KHJ. So congratulations to those 4 companies. A great accomplishment. Thank you very much. The growing impact of these top 100 companies has gained a lot of attention over the last 20 years. And in particular, the attention of our governor, Charlie Baker. Charlie has been one of Commonwealth Institute's biggest supporters from the beginning.
Hey everybody, Massachusetts Governor Charlie Baker here. I want to start by thanking Elizabeth Heiler for that introduction, and I especially want to thank her for her leadership of Commonwealth Institute. I go back a long time with this organization. I remember speaking to it many years ago when it was a small organization with a big idea. And that big idea was to provide a network and a support system, guidance, advice, sort of whatever it took to help women who wanted to either start or grow businesses here in the Commonwealth of Mass be successful. And let's face it, if you look at the track record over the last 20 years, the Commonwealth Institute has succeeded big time, and so have women-led businesses here in the Commonwealth. I remember being at the event last year, and my recollection is that last year's award winners represented about 90,000 employees and about $50 billion in revenue. This year's winners represent, I'm going to say something like 170,000 employees and somewhere around $70 billion in revenue. That would be more, but it's not a surprise because here in Massachusetts, we have a thriving community of women-led, women-operated, women-owned businesses. And the Commonwealth Institute has been there side by side every step of the way. It's a truly great story. And even though we're virtual this year, I look forward to having a chance next year to be able to celebrate, recognize, and honor the Institute and the award winners in person. Before I go, I just want to say that when I think about my own team, it's about half men and half women. And believe me, I would never say this in front of the men, but the women carry them. No questions about it. And they would all tell you that if you could ever get them to tell you the truth. This is a great organization. It does great work. And I'm thrilled that here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, we have an organization like this that has been such a partner to so many great leaders here in our Commonwealth, growing, building, and creating wonderful companies that employ lots of people, solve lots of problems, and do many, many great things. And next year, I look forward to seeing you all in person to celebrate again the great work that you do here in Massachusetts.
Thank you so much. We're really looking forward to having you with us again in 2021, hopefully in person this time. You know, 2020 has been a challenging year. No one is ready for a year like this year. No one has a prior experience. There's no class, no course that would include a viral pandemic, a climate pandemic, and a racial pandemic, and oh, by the way, a national election all at once. The leadership required to get through these times is absolutely stunning, and we're so proud of the women in the top 100 who have done so. Our partner, Linda Henry from the Boston Globe, has a lot to say about what these women have done, and will be saying more in the Women in Power magazine that will come out this Sunday.
Hello. On behalf of the Boston Globe, I'm delighted to join you this morning in congratulating the top 100 women-led businesses in Massachusetts. Though we can't cheer each other on in person this year at one of TCI's great ballroom breakfasts, it has never been more important to celebrate all that women-led companies have achieved. In this time of unprecedented challenges, women-led businesses are still here and still a force that drives the Massachusetts economy. If the year in business had a theme, it might be this word, pivot. When the pandemic struck, many of the CEOs on this top 100 list, like their counterparts across the country, had to rethink their mission to help their companies survive. They had to reinvent business models, introduce new products and services, and invent new ways of serving customers and supporting employees. Now too, pivoting has been a necessity for virtually all organizations in 2020, and women leaders have what it takes to pivot skillfully. Experts say that women tend to collaborate and seek out advice when tackling problems. They consider the long term, they multitask, they empathize. In our interviews with CEOs for our Women in Power issue, those skills and priorities became clear. We asked the chief executives what they've learned from steering their companies through 2020. One college leader was proud of collaboration across the higher education ecosystem, with colleges and universities, large and small, learning from each other. Well, none of us have done this before. Executives from other industries talked about the importance of being supportive of employees, prioritizing a sense of community, and listening to the diversity of perspectives within their ranks. They described leading with empathy, and as one leader put it, treating people like people and not resources. These are values we've also relied on at the Globe. I'm proud to say that today 55% of the newsroom leaders listed in our masthead are women, and that 60% of those leaders are women of color. Women are in key decision-making roles across the newsroom. They head up our Spotlight investigative team, our editorial and opinion pages, our local news and regional coverage, our education team, our arts, food, and travel sections, and others. The skills female leaders bring to any enterprise deliver results. A study released earlier this year by McKinsey found that companies with at least 30% women on their executive teams are nearly 50% more likely to outperform the average. Quote, in the COVID-19 crisis, inclusion and diversity matter more than ever, the McKinsey authors wrote. Female business leaders will be key to our economic recovery. From 2014 to 2019, the number of women-owned businesses nationwide climbed 21%, and the number of firms owned by women of color grew at twice that. We must ensure that this growth continues, and that the creative solutions that we implement during COVID-19 also propel us toward a more equitable workplace where women can thrive and lead. Thank you for joining us this morning to celebrate women and the outstanding contributions to business in Massachusetts. Congratulations to all that you have accomplished.
Thanks, Linda, very much. We appreciate the support from the Boston Globe and you personally to help us make this such a successful event. Also, a big shout out to a number of teams that have helped us make this happen today. Our team at the Commonwealth Institute, the Castle Group, Last Minute Productions, and the Boston Globe magazine. So thank you to all of you for helping us make this such a terrific event. Also, a big shout out to our many sponsors this year that have helped make sure that this all comes together and happens. Presenting partners: Always Health Partners, DentaQuest, Eastern Bank, Mass General Brigham. Event partners: Boston Children's Hospital, Melmark New England. Networking supporters: Lock Lord and Webster Bank. And our event supporters: 1251 Capital Management, Comcast Business, EY, Globalization Partners, Hub International, Morgan Stanley, NVNA, PricewaterhouseCoopers, and RSM. Thank you again. We would now like to turn to two of our supporters at TCI, Bob Rivers from Eastern Bank and Maisha Minter-Jordan from DentaQuest. They are both going to share their perspectives on the business imperative of gender and racial equity.
Congratulations to the Commonwealth Institute on the 20th anniversary of this important celebration, and many thanks to my friend Elizabeth Heiler and your team for your leadership and your important work. And congratulations to this evening's honorees, Massachusetts Top 100 Women-Led Businesses. Gender equity has been important from Eastern's very beginnings and represents the foundation of our advocacy principles. When we opened for business in 1818, we were the first in our region to offer banking services to women. As a result, about 80% of our first customers were women, making this new bank quickly viable. Our first demonstration to others in the business community that doing the right thing is often the smart thing too. Achieving gender equity in all ways is a moral imperative and a business one. In the business community, this means not only pay equity, but leadership equity in the representation on corporate boards and in the C-suite, which is at the heart of the mission and the work of the Commonwealth Institute. Doing this also meaningfully addresses wealth inequity, in which the total compensation received by women is far exceeded by that received by men, even if the pay for like positions is the same. And here's the best part. Achieving gender equity at the highest levels improves our decision-making and drives our company's performance to new heights.
Hello, I am Dr. Maisha Minter-Jordan, President and CEO of the DentaQuest Partnership for Oral Health Advancement and the Catalyst Institute. Our mission is to improve the oral health of all, and that mission is rooted in the pursuit of equity. Whether it's providing Medicaid dental coverage and care to more than 27 million people, supporting an inclusive national network of oral health leaders, providing hundreds of millions in philanthropic funding and research to understand gaps in our current system, we are putting in the work to transform our oral healthcare system into one that is equitable, accessible, and integrated. But our commitment to equity is not only focused on our healthcare system. We also proudly focus that commitment inside our own organization. The late U.S. Supreme Court Justice and cultural icon, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, said, "Women belong in all places where decisions are being made. It shouldn't be that women are the exception." I'm incredibly proud to lead an organization that believes those words to its core. As an employer, we have committed ourselves to gender equity and diversity, supporting our workforce with tools and coaching for their growth and development. Like the Commonwealth Institute, I am very fortunate to have Pam Reeves serve as the chair of the boards of directors for both our nonprofit and for-profit affiliate. I can boast that together, these boards have 16 directors and more than half are women. Ensuring strong representation of women, including women of color, at the highest levels of an organization is incredibly important, but it is not a final destination. One of the great opportunities that we champion at the DentaQuest Partnership for Oral Health Advancement is the ability for any colleague at any level to support one another through employee resource groups that are focused on diversity and inclusion. We at DQ, or Women Empowered at DentaQuest, is a fantastic example of the power of ERGs. We all know that 2020 has presented us with unique challenges. We at DQ was an immediate response to the changing workplace environment by being a champion of virtual opportunities to engage leadership and support women who we know have disproportionately taken on the role of full-time educator to children learning remotely in addition to their full-time jobs. But we know that we cannot address the empowerment of women in a vacuum. Equity requires us to examine the intersections of gender, race, sexual orientation, poverty, and more. Inequities in our communities and our healthcare system have existed for decades. The data shows that single mothers and families of color have long experienced significant differences in access, treatment, quality, and affordability of care and economic opportunity. We are now putting that data to work. Through the work of organizations like ours committed to the pursuit of equity and justice, we are redirecting resources to communities and people most impacted and holding the feet to the fire of leaders throughout the Commonwealth to do the same.
Thank you, Bob and Maisha, for those inspirational words. And it was inspiration that led us to even develop the Top 100 list. Here's how we do it. We look at the data from 2019. Women have to have led the organizations for at least 2/3 of the year. We look at the revenue or operating income to determine the economic impact of each company. And then we have our own proprietary algorithm, which includes information about revenue, the percent of the workforce that is female or diverse, the percent of the management team that is female or diverse, as well as innovation and customer value to determine the ranking. The way these women lead their businesses is also inspirational. 58% of their senior management is female, which compares to 29% nationally. About 7% is women of color compared to 5% nationally, but it's an area we all need to work on. Women represent 35% of the boards of directors of these companies compared to about 20% nationally. And again, women of color about 6% versus 5% nationally. The workforce for the top 100 women is about 59% female, and nationally it's under 50%. Despite the challenges of 2020, as this group looks forward to the next year, they're actually pretty optimistic. Half of the reporting companies expect growth in the coming year, and half of them expect the growth to be at least 5%. About 23% expect things to be neither better nor worse. So about 75% of the respondents expect things to be equal or better to the way they were this year. But a solid 23% do expect things to be a little tougher this coming year.
But isn't it remarkable that given everything that we've all gone through in 2020, that these companies remain optimistic? And clearly everyone's working harder. We all know that.
I think it speaks to their creativity and their persistence and their resilience.
Yeah. And determination.
And determination.
So we asked some of our top 100 winners, what are they doing to lead and manage during the COVID crisis? And here's what they had to say.
Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be with you this morning, even virtually. I'm Elise Cherry, CEO of Blue Hub Capital, and I wanted to say first, congratulations to my sister honorees. It's always a pleasure to be in your company, and also to say a welcome to all of the friends and families who are watching this morning. I wanted to talk to you for a few minutes about leading an organization, particularly an organization that is 2/3 women in senior leadership and 2/3 women in our workforce in a time of COVID. And I think what I would say about that is because we've always had a workforce that is substantially women, we're also 25% women of color, the issues around assuring that women's mental health, women's productivity, women's ability to succeed at Blue Hub Capital have always been front and center in our minds. And so during a time of COVID, it really becomes a time to double down. One of the things that we have always done is to assure flexibility in work schedules. Women are often juggling a variety of responsibilities, kids, sometimes parents, sometimes community responsibilities, in addition to their work responsibilities. And so we have always met that by allowing lots of flexibility, by assuring that our workforce has the ability to work at home in comfortable ways with the equipment that they need and the space that they need and so forth. And that's really what we've continued doing here. We also recognize that the relationships that we have with our staff are not transactional relationships. They're really longitudinal relationships, and that the value to the organization of long-term employment, people who know our history and know how we operate and so forth, is really, really valuable. And we think as well that our ability to provide stable employment, particularly in this time in which so many people are concerned about availability of employment, is a big benefit to our staff as well. So we're trying to keep people as productive as we can, as accountable as we can, but recognizing that in this time of COVID, there are other things to focus on beyond productivity. We will get through this year fully intact. I expect we will get through next year fully intact as an organization. And the critical issue is to assure that our workforce does too, to recognize that mental health issues that might never have come to the fore are more in the present right now because of the difficulties of COVID, and to be supportive with respect to that. So really what we're trying to do is to encourage our staff to say right up front, I can't make a meeting because I have child responsibilities at that time, or I really need a day off today. And we're very supportive of all that. I think in the end, we have a loyal staff, and it is our obligation to be loyal to them as well in this difficult time. So I hope you are all well. I hope you stay well. And I very much look forward to a moment when we can be back together in person.
I am so proud to say that Bell Excel is led by women. 8 out of 9 of our departments are headed by women, and 60% of our workforce is women. And when I think back to when the crisis started, all of us were thinking, okay, we can do this. We've got this. And myself personally, I'm a single mom, thinking I'm good at balancing things. I'm a former certified teacher. I'm going to totally nail this homeschooling thing. And the reality was, as time went on, it was really, really hard to succeed. We were asking working moms to do 2 jobs at one time, and it wasn't going to work. So the first thing that we did was allow flexible work time. And that really helped us at that time. So you could go back and forth from homeschooling for a few hours, doing your job for a few hours. But the truth is that we were emailing each other 12, 1 in the morning, because we didn't have the bigger conversation, which was not just a shift in timing, but a rethinking of our priorities. Were these deadlines essential, or were they just essential to us? Were they self-imposed? We looked at all of our projects across the business and saying which ones are needed right now and which can we actually delay. And we didn't become less powerful because we did that. We became more powerful. Allowing women to succeed will do nothing but strengthen who we are.
How we are inspiring and engaging our teammates in this virtual environment is really focusing on communication. Having more frequent communication with our employees, with our customers, with our partners. The pandemic has necessarily required us to go into physical isolation and social distancing, but we didn't want that to turn into a loss of connectedness. So frequently communicating, being transparent, providing avenues to people to connect with each other became a really important part of our strategy as we've navigated the pandemic so far. That has taken the shape of regular town halls with updates on business, but also covering topics on employee well-being. We've had external speakers join us. We've had one of our teammates that's an opera singer sing amazing arias for us. We are doing a hackathon entirely virtually, where we are giving our team the opportunity to exercise their creative minds. And we are trying to keep up with all of the cultural norms that made us who we are before the pandemic, even in this remote world. And the one thing, though, that hasn't changed is our mission. The mission that we serve around securing the world's software. And so we, in our frequent communications, also try to remind our teammates that the world's largest brands are changing the world in amazing ways, in better ways, with the use of software. And we continue to have that privilege to help them secure those software applications. And that continues to put a step in our motion, because that is a goal still worth pursuing. We have also instituted policies to help our employees fight off Zoom fatigue. And when we recognize just how heavy things had become this year, not just due to the pandemic, but all of the other events that are happening in the world, we decided to give our staff additional days off to allow them to recharge. We call them these recharge days. We called them our recharge days. We've provided funds to each employee to outfit their home working space so that they can make it more comfortable and continue to be more productive. We've also focused on recognizing the great work that our employees continue to do even as they are working in a remote fashion. Each month, the company as a whole and individual business units take the time to shout out their colleagues' great work. We created a Slack channel called the Shout Out channel, where constantly you can go in there and see one teammate recognizing another teammate for some amazing work that they've done. That's yet another way in which we're promoting this feeling of connectedness while we're all working separately and working remotely. The resiliency of the greater Boston business community and beyond has also been a source of inspiration and has helped us push ourselves forward. On behalf of everyone at Veracode, I thank the Commonwealth Institute and the Boston Globe for this great recognition.
Wow, these were great examples of connectedness and communication, always important, but even more so during this current time. So now, let's get to the countdown.
We would be remiss if we did not address the socioeconomic impact that COVID has had on women in the workforce. Let's hear now from a few of our local leaders about the actions that they're taking to help mitigate the impact of this COVID crisis.
Thank you, Elizabeth, and congratulations to all the awardees for making such a significant contribution to the Massachusetts economy and our workforce. We need you now more than ever. First and foremost, when it comes to promoting women and people of color in leadership at any organization, it must be done with intentionality. Not just aspiration, but clear and defined plans that meet clear and defined goals for promoting women in the workforce. A lot of times I talk to organizations that tell me they value this as an ideal, but when I ask them how many women sit on their board or the C-suite, it is nowhere near equitable levels. In my own organization, we are constantly monitoring that data to ensure our secretariat lives up to its aspirations, and I'm proud to report that we have some of the highest levels of women in leadership in state government. My undersecretary is a woman, my chief of staff is a woman of color. We just hired a woman to lead our quasi-public organization, Commonwealth Corporation. This sense of intentionality and women in leadership is obviously shared by Governor Baker, who's chief of staff, lieutenant governor, and half of us in the cabinet are women. For businesses, this makes good economic sense. Study after study shows that a more diverse workforce is a more productive workforce, and a more productive workforce is a more profitable one. But I will say that while diversifying the top of the economic pyramid with more women and people of color is really important, I also think it's really important to look out for those at lower ends of the wage spectrum, those who are being disproportionately affected during this pandemic. Prior to the pandemic, unemployment claimants were 52% male and 47% female. Now that is reversed, and women represent 55% of all our claimants, and men are at 44%. We're also seeing women not just becoming unemployment claimants at a higher rate, but the majority of the decrease in our labor force is being realized in the female population. 51,000 women have left the labor force entirely this year, whereas the male labor force declined by 28,000. We are very cognizant about those discrepancies as we head back into the economic recovery. We need to keep being intentional to ensure that women and people of color who traditionally fall further behind during these downturns have the resources and access they need to fully participate in the workforce. Now more than ever, the mission of the Commonwealth Institute is so important, making sure that people in positions of power and access hire the best and brightest in the Commonwealth to help alleviate some of the statistics I just shared with you. I want to thank Elizabeth Hyler and all the board members of TCI for continuing the critical work of advancing women into leadership roles. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for all you do.
Good morning. My name is Joanne Simons, and I'm the President and CEO of the Northeast ARC. Since early March, we have been taking aggressive steps to ensure that our workforce, which is largely female, includes many heads of households and many new Americans, are protected and supported at work and at home. Women leaders knew how to respond to COVID-19 because we act quickly and instinctively. Many of us have been taking care of our own families and could easily understand the challenges and fears facing our female workforce. We acted with leadership, compassion, empathy, and we acted quickly. We never closed providing 24-hour services, and while a few staff were able to work from home, others had to shift in 72 hours to providing remote services. We never stopped, for example, providing early intervention services to families, mostly to mothers, so they could provide OT, PT, and speech services to their children with delays, or have new babies be evaluated and receive services. Our brave nurses continue to go into the homes to care for the most critically ill and vulnerable children in the Commonwealth, keeping them out of hospitals. All of this continues, but we have added space now for our staff to bring their school-age children to a guided learning center. What a new reality it is to see small children behind a computer all day connecting virtually to their teachers and to their classmates. But their families, their parents, mostly their mothers, our staff know that they have a safe place for which to receive support and to be guided in their learning. That's how we support women at work now. Leave no doubt that our women, our staff, are first responders. We support a woman who is blind and has an intellectual disability, a very independent woman who contracted COVID. And our staff did what they did each day. With proper protections, they went into her home to provide her with the supports she needed. They rushed in because that's what first responders do. And they have told me again and again, they'll do it again. Thank you and congratulations to everybody who made this fabulous list. And thank you to the Commonwealth Institute for providing a forum for women and leaders.
At Whittier Street Health Center, we have a dedicated team of caregivers and staff with a deep commitment to addressing health disparities, social justice, and economic equity in the vulnerable communities we serve. More than 70% of our team members are women, and many continue to serve our patients selflessly during the pandemic to ensure our clients had access to COVID-19 testing, medical, behavioral, and social services. Our employee engagement team, which has a majority representation of women, has continued to meet virtually to provide guidance to the leadership team on their recommendations on steps needed to support the physical and mental exhaustion experienced by our healthcare staff and their economic stability and professional growth. Internal promotions of women have been an important employee and retention strategy at Whittier. Within the last few months, several women have been promoted to newly created positions or to fill vacancies, including the promotion of one of our long-term female colleagues to a vice president position. We launched virtual happy hours for team members who were physically distanced to maintain team building, communications, and support. Virtual trainings and webinars are ongoing to invest in the professional growth of our employees. We increased our communications with empathy and compassion to ensure we were addressing concerns about the virus, job security, and long-term stability. Staff have flexible work schedules to lessen the burden of childcare. We also launched an emergency childcare program for 3 months. Employees are allowed to utilize paid time off without documentation or restrictions. We expanded access to our employee assistance program to help to address the unintended consequences of shelter-in-place measures, which includes the alarming increases in domestic violence, mental health, and substance use disorders. We know that progress towards greater gender and racial equality has been slow, and the COVID-19 pandemic now risks eliminating the gains made. We are deeply committed to the long-term growth of our female employees so they too can reach their full potential.
As we think about harnessing the potential of all of our women leaders, let's turn to our next group of winners. Diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging are front and center for our leaders right now. Building that diverse, leader-full environment is a great aspiration and not easy to do.
Yes, General Brigham has been successful in ensuring representation of women in leadership roles. In fact, we have about 50% parity in leadership ranks. Increasing the hiring, promotion, and retention of women of color is one of our priorities under Mass General Brigham's United Against Racism strategy that works to create a more inclusive, diverse workforce. We are focused on creating opportunities and advancement for Black, Brown, and Native American people. Mentoring is such an important way to share knowledge and guidance and encourage our leaders to participate in mentoring relationships. I've had the pleasure of serving as a mentor to so many women, with many of these relationships lasting for years. There is something so inspiring about seeing one of your mentees take the next step in their career or be recognized for their great work. As employers, we must do everything possible to preserve the gender gains we've made over the year, even in the worst of circumstances, and a very difficult time for all. Our leadership decision-making must consider the array of needs and nuances that a workforce of Mass General Brigham's size creates. This includes the members of our Mass General Brigham team who care for patients at the bedside, at our practices, as well as our virtual workforce. Finding ways to inspire and engage our remote workforce has been a major focus of Mass General Brigham since the end of March. We've created manager education materials and support, emphasizing both flexibility and connection. Although this is not easy, our leaders and our employees have worked so hard to make the best of a challenging situation. Compassion and empathy have been two very critical skills that all our leaders have had to embrace during this pandemic. One day, we will resume a more normal way of working together, and that normal way will be defined over time. But in the meantime, we must demonstrate flexibility, empathy, and innovation as we help our workforce balance the very critical demands of work and home.
Curiosity and leadership are two of the most important characteristics that we look for when recruiting, whether someone's straight out of college, someone in one of our apprenticeship programs that may be out of high school or a 2-year degree, or an experienced hire. Curiosity is critical because we believe in a strong culture of learning. We invest almost $1 billion a year, in fact, toward the development of our people, because the world is constantly changing, technology is changing, industries are changing, and of course, the COVID crisis has only reinforced this need. And so we want people to come here who believe in lifelong learning. And in fact, as CEO, I have a quarterly learning agenda for myself and for my team. Leadership, it also comes back to change. One of our 7 leadership essentials is a leader must have the courage to change and the ability to bring people along the journey. We always want to bet on our people, whether it's upskilling them, whether it's having them work in new ways, and leadership, the focus on a team, the sense of being greater than yourself, the sense of collaboration is really critical in having the courage to change and making sure that we bring our people with us.
Thank you, Anne and Julie. Both of these leaders are transforming the cultures of companies that are already quite successful. And speaking of successful companies, let's go on with our countdown.
Our final two speakers are two women who have broken multiple barriers in their respective industries and are paving the way for better representation.
Hi, I'm Meghna Chakrabarty. Stephen Jay Gould called it punctuated equilibrium. And in the context of evolution, it was that moment in evolution where a lot of massive change in life and species happened really quickly. So the way I look at COVID is that it is punctuated equilibrium for everything we thought about what it means to work and learn. So what does that mean in the context of our team? Well, it means that we have undergone a really essential transformation. In this emergency, we have put the health and well-being of all of our team really at the center of everything that we do. So what does that mean? That means adopting flexibility, agility, and empathy, and putting that at the forefront way more than we used to. It also means that we've been asking ourselves, well, what are the traditional things that we thought we had to do for this work, to put a radio show on the air for the nation every day? What are the things that we thought we had to do to accomplish that we are no longer doing because of the pandemic? And the things that we're no longer doing that we can live with not doing anymore. And so then what do we do with all that time and human capital that used to go towards those activities and duties and traditions that we thought were so necessary but clearly aren't? So specifically for women on my team, again, this means empathy, empathy, empathy. Responsiveness, responsiveness, responsiveness. I mean, I'm coming to you today from my office, my workshop, and a remote classroom all at once. So I think what we have tried to do is put intentional communication really at the core, constantly checking in with people. How are you doing? What do you need? What can we change regarding your schedule, your duties, your deliverables, the deadlines that we have to meet? Do you need that change for a week? Do you need it for a month? Just a real constant flow of communication so that we can have that responsiveness built into everything that we do. And again, putting the health and well-being of the team and their families at the core of our entire work process. So now I'll just add one more thing, because the challenge is, or the inspiring challenge is, when we get past this pandemic, which we will, how do we take all that we've learned and keep it at the center of how we do our work? How do we take that flexibility, that adaptability, and that empathy and keep it at the heart of how our team operates? So we're going to do that. We're going to try to do that. Whether we're still dispersed and working from home, or some people are working from the studios, or whether we're all together again, this massive mind shift in what's necessary to take care of our team and to have that be the center of all that we do, that's going to stay with us. That's how I want to continue supporting all of my team, especially the women on my team. I know firsthand what it's like to have to balance all those priorities at the same time. But I think if we think of each other and about each other more often, we can do that.
Hello, Commonwealth Institute. It's Katie Sowers here, offensive assistant coach for the San Francisco 49ers. And I heard that you all are having a celebration of the 20th annual Top 100 Women-Led Businesses in Massachusetts. And I wanted to share some of my advice, some of my insight as to why it's so important that we have women leading and opening up the doors for other women to see that we can thrive in male-dominated industries. And you know, my biggest piece of advice for all of you, regardless of where you are, what position you have, what industry you're in, the main thing is that, first of all, you are true to yourself, you're authentic, you are chasing your passion regardless of what that passion might be. You're not listening to stereotypes, you're not listening to the barriers that are invisibly placed on every single one of us based on who it is that we are by a lot of these societal norms. But we are chasing our dream regardless of our gender, because what that does when we open the door, it allows other people to come in behind us. And there are so many young girls and young boys out there who don't know that something is possible until they see it. And you might be the change for someone to say, I can do that, or that's something that I one day strive to be. So continue to be the change in this world, continue to take it one step at a time, and know that you guys are really making a difference. Thank you for everything that you do, and I wish you all the success in the world. I know that you guys are making so many younger generations proud, and you're changing their lives. We'll see you guys, and go Niners.
Thank you, Meghna. And Katie, we really appreciate the way you've broken barriers in the NFL. We might question your choice of team, but that's okay. And now, Elizabeth, why don't we turn to the final 10?
I'm ready and able. Let's go.
That's great.
Okay.
Coming in at number 10, Abigail Johnson, Chairman and CEO of Fidelity.
Number 9, Joanne Simons, President and CEO of Northeast Arc.
Number 8, Ann Klebansky, President and CEO, Mass General Brigham.
Number 7, Susan Murley, Co-Managing Partner, Wilmer Hale.
Coming in at number 6, Betsy Nabel, President, Brigham Health.
Number 5, Lizanne Kindler, CEO of Talbots.
Number 4, Sandra Fenwick, CEO, Boston Children's Hospital.
Number 3, Christina Severin, President and CEO, Community Care Cooperative.
Number 2, Kate Walsh, President and CEO, Boston Medical Center Health System.
And number 1, Lori Glimsher, President and CEO, Dana-Farber Cancer Institute. So congratulations to all the winners. Pam, join me in a toast and cheers to all the top 100
Cheers.
winners. Cheers. Thanks again to all of our sponsors and all of you who have participated this morning. And congratulations again to our top 100 winners. Please save the date, next year, November 5th, 2021, and we certainly hope to see you all in person. But if not, we will be back right here in the recording studio next year. Take care.
Thank you for joining us, everyone. Stay safe, stay healthy. We have a lot of work to do. Let's get back to work. But before that, let's have a final look at the top 100.
The program, as I said, is pre-recorded. So the first hour, stop. Can we just stop right there?
Yeah, let's stop right
there. I did okay, right?
Yeah,
Mhm.
You did great.
I did?
Yeah,
I did great?
Yeah, that sounded really good. Yeah.
Yay! It's the impact of the top 100 companies is gaining a lot of attention, or has gotten a lot of attention. I thought his name was Bob.
It can be. Oh, whatever you want. You're paying us.
Hey, you.
Then you're on. I'm sure you'll go right through this with not a problem.
Yeah, I don't think so. Oh, I'm looking at Spirit Fingers.
Oh, shit. Okay. Let's do it again.
You did it so well.
No. Let's do it again. What are you called? Last minute what?
Productions.
I'm joking.
Last Minute Productions. What's the name of this place? Where are we? Are we
Who
at
exactly
CBS?
are you?
It was about 10 minutes ago. You walked past the sign, so I wasn't sure if you remembered.
Yeah.
I just see the Red Hook sign. That's all I see.
Yeah, that's what I see. It's like, this is like Beer Central.
And the flag. And it's like,
I think they have market share.
bleh. Okay. Sorry. I'm just trying to look at your beautiful eyes as I say this.
Yeah. You're good at mine.
Or Bobsy Bob.
Or Bob, yeah. Or Bob. The other
Silent Bob.
The Silent Bob. we would you're making me laugh. Hey, Bob.
Bobbity bop bop
Bob,
bop 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 bop. 50-something% is something something. After I said that I memorized it, now that you told me I didn't have to, I want to read it. Okay, I'm going to read it. Okay.
It's really okay.
Yep. That was really good.
Can we drink it? Can we have our
Here's
champagne?
the champagne!
Yay!
Oh, let's go. Okay. And they're doing a transformation. You know, they're doing a transformation.
Really?
They're
I
doing
did
one.
not
They're
know
doing
that.
it. They're doing it. Yep. Mm-hmm.
See, if we didn't have to be serious, we could have a
lot more fun. Yeah, exactly.
Perfect.
Is that better? Is that better?
That was like Dick Clark.
Yeah. And now,
That was like 1970.
it really.
Oh my God.
It really was.
We are way too old.
Yeah. Some of us in the room know that. Our final two speakers are two women that have broken barriers in their respective industries and are. Okay. Okay.
That was his cue. I think the word barriers is his cue.
And the final speaker is Vegas.
Vegas!
And Vegas has a few words.